Shemai, Yasharallah, Ayahayanawa, Yahweh, Akad, Shemai, Yasharallah, Ayahayanawa, Ayahayanawa, Akad. First and foremost, I have to give all praise and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yoshai, Ba'ashim Kadash. Much respect to Yakim and Aglafium, pushing the work of the Lord in true faith and sincerity, and promoting your body's living sacrifice. So today in this edification, in this lesson, we're going to basically going over how it's all about enduring to the end, man. You know, it's not about what you start. It's ultimately about what you finish, man. Because, of course, you know, you can be good during prosperity, but when adversity comes, what are you going to do? Adversity determines someone's true character and someone's true nature, you know? So, ultimately, man, you know, it's all about enduring to the end. Of course, you could be all on fire right now, but when adversity comes, when Jacob's trouble comes, when the hour of temptation comes, you know, what are you going to do? Are you going to fold? Are you gonna fold when you become America's most wanted? You know, are you gonna fold when the spirit of betrayal, you know, ultimately goes out in the all-time rate? You know, are you gonna fold, you know, and ultimately reject Yahweh Shai in that day? Are you gonna reject him? You know, when there's gonna be when there's a law set that if you're a believer in Yahweh Shai, then you'll be executed. Are you gonna fold? Are you gonna fold? You know, are you gonna stop bearing the cross of Yahweh Shai? You know, that's the question, man. So ultimately, man, it's all about enduring to the end. You know, you have to endure to the end. You have to ultimately hit the finish line, man. You know, you have to hit the finish line, man. You know, all right. And now let's go to the scriptures. Let's go to the book of Matthew, chapter 24, starting at the 5th verse. And it reads, "For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many." In verse 6, "Ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these must come to pass, but the end is not yet." In verse 7, "For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines, pestilences, earthquakes in diverse places." In verse 8, "These are the beginning of sorrows. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you. Ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake." In verse 10, "And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and hate one another." In verse 11, "And many false prophets shall arise, and shall deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold." You know, and let's get to the point, man. Verse 13, "But he that endureth to the end, he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved," man. So in the precepts above, these are all, you know, things that are, you know, ultimately going to happen, man. These are ultimately tests. You know, these are ultimately tests, you know, basically quizzes, man. You know, the Lord, you know, hasn't set for us, man. You know, so ultimately you gotta endure till the end of the test, till the last question, and answer that, and ultimately finish the test, man. So ultimately, you know, with all these things that are occurring right now and that are gonna occur and ultimately manifest in the future, you know, all these tests and temptations, you have to be able to pass that, man. You have to endure to the end, man. You can't just answer the first two questions and then give up. No, it's about what you finish, man. It's not about what you start. It's about what you finish, man. So ultimately, with all these things, you know, that are gonna occur, you know, he that endured to the end shall be saved, man. So you can say you're the elect all day, but ultimately we're gonna see who's the elect ultimately at the end, man. You know, then you're gonna see who can win the race. You know, no one knows who's gonna win the championship till the clock you know, goes 0-0, man. You know, that's when you know who the winner will be. That's when you know who's the chosen. So ultimately, in the end, you know, that's when you see who's chosen, man. So ultimately, you have to continue to endure, man, till the end. So ultimately, you could see that you ultimately were diligent to make your calling and election sure, man. You know. And now let's go to the book of James, chapter 1, starting at the 12th verse, to back up what I'm saying about temptation. This book of James, chapter 1, verse 12, and it reads, "Blessed is the man that endureth temptation." You know, so ultimately, blessed is the man that endureth endureth temptation, Salakia, you know? For when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life which the Lord hath promised to them that love him. So ultimately, man, blessed is the man that endureth temptation. So ultimately, you are blessed, man. If you have the ability to endure temptation, and ultimately have that endurance to keep persevering, then you're blessed, man. That's a gift from Yahweh Bashim Shai, man. For when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, man. So ultimately, you will be tried, you will be tempted, but ultimately when you pass, those tests, those temptations, you're ultimately gonna receive the crown of life, from Yahweh Shai. And ultimately even also one one tribulation that's gonna come upon brothers is that some brothers may have to be martyrs, man. Some brothers might have to give their own life to ultimately pass the test of Yahweh Shai, man. So Yahweh Bashim Shai. So ultimately, even if you die, as a martyr, you're still gonna receive the crown of life, man. And you gotta remember that. If Esau has a gun to your head, you know, and he says, "Oh, reject Yahweh Bashim Shai right now," you better tell him, "Fuck you, man." If that's me, I don't care if they're about to cut my head off, man. If Esau tells me to reject Yahweh Shai, you know, and ultimately, say curse Yahweh Shai, man, I'm gonna tell Esau, fuck him, go fuck yourself, man. And if Esau, kills me, he kills me. I don't care. But ultimately, the Lord could have it to the point that your spirit already leaves your body. When your body get when your body get tortured, or when your body get your head chopped off or something, the Lord can easily take the spirit out of your body. So ultimately, you don't feel no pain, man. So brothers are gonna have to be tortured. Brothers will be tortured. I don't want to be tortured, but ultimately, we got that's what we got to do, man. If that's our lot, then that's what we got to do. You think Yahweh Shai wanted to go on the cross and go through that excruciating pain? No, he didn't want to, but ultimately he endured till the end, and now he's the King of Kings and the Lords of Lords, man. So ultimately we're gonna receive the crown of life which the Lord have promised to them that love him, man. So ultimately, man, we're gonna receive the crown of life for ultimately enduring temptation, man. Yeah. Now, let's go to the book of 2 Timothy, chapter 2, starting at the first verse. Thou therefore, my son, be strong in the grace that is in Yahweh Shai Mashiach. Verse 2, and the things that thou hast heard of me among many witnesses, the same commit thou to faithful men, who shall be able to teach others also. Verse 3, thou therefore endure hardness as a good soldier of Yahweh Shai. So ultimately, we have to endure hardness as a good soldier of Yahweh Shai, man. So we have to be able to have that endurance, man. Whether we're being tempted, whether we're being tried, but ultimately, for a precious thing, to be purified, it has to go through affliction, man. And the Lord, has called us his jewels, man. So ultimately, we're the Lord's jewels. But for a jewel, or a gold, to be, purified, to look nice, and be in that glorious state, it has to go through affliction, man. So we're going to have to endure hardness, man, as a good soldier of Yahweh Shai, and ultimately continue to bear a cross no matter what comes our way, man. So, and also, man, whosoever the Lord chastiseth, he loveth, man. So ultimately, we're gonna keep going through these tests because ultimately the Lord loves us. He ultimately wants us to show ourselves worthy, man. In verse 4, no man that warreth entangle himself with the affairs of this life, that he may please him who have chosen him to be a soldier. So ultimately, no man, that's in war, that's in the battlefield, entangles himself with the affairs of life, man. When a soldier is in the battlefield, he always leaves the affairs of life, behind, man. Because when it's wartime, it's wartime. You can't be thinking about your family, you can't be thinking about, all these things that happen to you. No, you gotta ultimately continue to fight, man. And ultimately fight the good fight of faith. And we have to continue to keep going, man. You know, because brothers are tried every day. Brothers are battling demons. Brothers have physical infirmities, you know, infirmities of the flesh. You know, you got back pain. You got all that. You know, those are all tests to see if you are fold or not, man. So us brothers, we're surviving, man. You know, the Lord says He'll never put you through something that you can't handle, man. You know, and that's why in the scriptures, you know, in future tense, you know, that's why Jacob's trouble goes hand to hand with the hour of temptation, because ultimately, that's when the teacher is gonna be quiet during the test. You know, remember the teacher is always quiet during the test. So ultimately, man, the Lord is gonna ultimately test us if we were studying or if we were just you know, not paying attention the whole time, man. But ultimately, man, you know, we have to cast away the affairs of life, you know, and ultimately keep enduring hardness as a soldier of Yahweh Shai, man. So we can ultimately please Him that chose us to be a soldier, man. You know? And now, let's go to the book of Revelations, chapter 20. Revelations 20, starting at the 12th verse. Revelation 20 and 12, and it reads, "And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God. And the books were open, and another book was open, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books according to their works." So ultimately, you know, the book of life, you know, and the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books according to their works. In verse 13, "And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and the death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them. And they were judged every man according to their works." You know, so ultimately, you know, the Lord's gonna judge every man according to their works, man. You know, if you passed your test, if you ace the test or not, man. But if you ace the test, you know, you will not go through. Let's read verse 14. You know, you'll see what you go through. In verse 14, "And death and hell were cast unto the lake of fire." This is the second death. You know, in death and hell cast in the lake of fire. You know, lake of fire represent Babylon, the great America. When America gets hit by thermonuclear missiles, when they're upon a chariot from above, you know, America's gonna look like a damn lake of fire, man. You know, a nuclear missile. You know, and that will ultimately be the second death. You know, thermonuclear missiles. So, in verse 15, "And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire," man. So ultimately, if you're not written in the book of life, meaning that you weren't chosen, you know, you weren't chosen by the Lord, you know, you're ultimately going to be cast in the lake of fire, meaning that you will die in thermonuclear missiles, you know, in World War III. That's going to happen in America, man. You know, so you will be cast into the lake of fire and ultimately perish, and that ultimately will be your second death, man. You know, so ultimately, man, you know, you have to keep enduring, man. You know, you have to keep enduring so you can be acceptable, you know, and ultimately show your works. Thenceforth, you know, the Lord can ultimately not cast you into the lake of fire, meaning destruction, man. So ultimately, man, we're battling to survive, man. You know, this is a survival of the fittest thing right here, man. You know, because if we're not doing what we're supposed to do, then you're going to fail the test, you know. And there's no retakes, man, in the book of life, man. You know, and in the work of Yahweh Shai. So we have to continue to endure, you know, ultimately have the endurance to keep going no matter what, you know, tests come upon us, so we can ultimately be found worthy and written in the book of life, man. You know? So with that, Lord willing, we're edified to give all praise and glory to Yahweh Shai, Bashim Kakadosh. Shalom, Akim, stay up, death to America.